and I'm here with Dave Schneider. We're going to be talking about trends in link building. So if you've read anything about SEO in the past or had some experience with SEO, you've been told you need links. And one of the things that we're going to get into is what are the trends, because not all links are the same. Not all links produce the same results. And so we're going to lean into Dave's expertise today. Dave, glad to have you here. If you would give us a little background about yourself, and then we'll dive in.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, Carl. Really happy to be here as well. Get a chance to speak with your audience. As you mentioned, my name is Dave. I am a CEO and co-founder of the marketing agency Shortlist. One of our main services is link building, although we also do website design and dev and some content strategy. But I've been a digital marketer for well over 10 years now. Digital nomad as well, so incorporate a lot of traveling around. I've done work in software and services, but always generally in marketing tech, and a lot of that has involved SEO. So these days, Shortlist is about a 20-person or so company, mainly located in Macedonia. We work with clients all over the world. So happy to share what I know and answer your questions.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds great. One of the things about digital marketing is the freedom you have to work from anywhere. So that's certainly awesome to hear. Well, Dave, let's just get started. Let's talk about, just the basics. What is link building? Why does somebody need links? And let's just kind of start from that elementary point and work our way forward.
Yeah, so the absolute basics, as best as I can describe it, is first of all, if you or, I know you obviously, but other individuals, as you read articles on the web, you'll often see things are hyperlinked. That is basically a reference to usually another page. It may be a page within that website. We call that an internal link, or it may be a link to someone else's website. Let's say Wikipedia, for example. We call that an external link. In many cases, you look at that and you think of that as just a user experience feature. Sort of, we are citing, the source of which we found it, much like when we were, younger, we were told to kind of reference and cite the facts that we brought in that weren't originally ours. But those who, know a little bit more about SEO understand that that is a primary link ranking factor for Google. So essentially, part of the way the Google search algorithm works, and I'm not privy to the exact algorithm in and of itself, but it's a well-known fact that this is at least a major contributing factor, is that the more links that your site or web page has incoming from other quality sites, the higher it's going to rank for those keywords that are associated with the link coming into your page. So link building is sort of the service or the act of generating those links, whether or not you're going out to webmasters and you're asking them to link to content that you've written, or whether or not they are just organically finding things that you've created online and are linking to it naturally, but going out and having those links created with the goal to increase where you rank in the search.
Okay, great. Now, you used a word there that I want us to dig into a little bit. You used the word quality. And so let's talk about what is a quality link versus just any link in general. What is it that a person should be looking for to really fit that definition of quality?
Yeah, quality is one of those subjective words where everybody has a little bit of a different opinion about what it means. But we can say that when you are getting linked to from another site, the metrics of that site bear importance as to how good, for lack of a better word, that link is, how valuable it is. So for example, if you were linked to maybe from a site like Forbes, this is a well-known reputable site, it has a lot of traffic, has a lot of authority because a lot of people are linking to Forbes. So it has in turn a lot of authority that it can sort of pass on. Then it is likely going to be considered a quality link. On the other hand, there are many links that we receive all the time, and they are, we'll call them low quality. They are from sites that don't have a lot of traffic. Maybe these sites are spamming. Maybe they are what we call just kind of private blog networks. So somebody kind of owns a farm of sites and they've sort of created their own link network. and they're basically, they're not Forbes, for lack of a better word. So the metrics, that there's no hard set fast kind of standards that everyone can agree on sort of what's quality and what's not. But typically some of the things that we look at when we evaluate whether or not a website is quality. Number one, we'll look to see if it itself is getting a lot of organic traffic. If a website is getting a lot of organic traffic, that is a sign to us that Google has determined that this site is worthy of showing its visitors from its own search. And so that's a way of us telling whether or not it has a lot of its quality. We also might look at what's called the domain authority or the domain ranking or domain rating. There are different SEO tools kind of have their own sort of authority metric. So domain authority is from Moz, which is a well-known SEO tool. And they essentially look at the backlink profile of the website and they determine whether or not they think it's quality and how strong the website is. So things like domain authority, things like organic traffic, things like how the website looks, performs, go into the opinion of whether or not we think it's quality.
Okay, great. So let me ask you this question. So is there an issue of relevance? So there might be a really high authority site, but does it need to match up somewhat to what it is we're talking about on our site? How do we get that relevance built into that equation?
There definitely is a relevance factor. It's hard to sort of see that. You don't see a lot of metrics around relevance because relevance is subjective to each individual person who would be getting a link. So a site that is maybe relative for me might not be relative for you. And therefore, where something like domain authority or organic traffic are kind of standard, they mean the same for everyone. Relevance is a little different, but we do believe that relevance is important, that when you get linked from a site, if that is a site that where the article in which you got linked is contextually relevant to what you do. So if, for example, if I provide marketing services and then I'm linked to an article about the top 10 best agencies in Philadelphia, that's a good link. However, if it's on a food blog and it's in a recipe, that would be very strange and out of place and likely not carry the same type of relevance and weight that I would get elsewhere.
Okay, great. So are there certain links you want to avoid, just bad neighborhoods you don't want to be a part of?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worth noting that you have somewhat limited control over, who links to you, right? So if someone decides to link to your website, that is often a decision that they have made, or it maybe is part of some sort of automation or tool that produces that link. And so sometimes we naturally just acquire bad links, just by being out there. Google in general, I think, does a good job of understanding what are kind of links that should be ignored, and they can tell that the site is low quality, and therefore they won't factor it into their algorithm, and it won't negatively impact you. Sometimes when this gets a little out of control and you have a lot of links that maybe are really spamming, then you can make extra efforts to do what's called disavow them. Disavowing them is essentially when you submit a file to Google and you say, I want all these links to be discarded or not regarded as part of any sort of calculations. And we believe to understand that also can help kind of clean up your backlink profile. And occasionally that also happens if you do maybe hire a link builder, because I did mention that is something you can proactively do, proactively try to acquire links. Sometimes they also don't get you the best quality ones. So bottom line is, the ones that we generally try to avoid are ones like I mentioned, where maybe the site has a really low authority. So authority is a metric between like 0 and 100. The higher, the better. So sites that maybe have an authority in like single digits are usually pretty low. Or if they really don't have any organic traffic at all, some sites literally have 0 organic traffic. That also is usually an indicator that it's not really high quality. There are other metrics we look at. For example, Moz has a metric called spam score, and they essentially look at a lot of factors of the website, and they say, does this website, is it consistent with other websites that we know to be spam? Does it look like a not legitimate website? For example, maybe it doesn't have a contact page or something like that. So all those metrics can kind of help paint the picture of what we should avoid.
Okay, great. So, when we talk about, some of the changes that happen, obviously in link building, Google updates the algorithm on a regular basis, and sometimes a business owner is going to find that all these links that got built all of a sudden can almost penalize them. What are some things that a business owner can do to just really keep their linking strategy penalty free?
Yeah, it's an important question because, like you mentioned, algorithms are coming out all the time. Many of them we're not even really aware of. They're, maybe minor, subtle changes that just kind of happen and adjustments get made, and we don't know. Then there are larger ones that people hear about. A lot of times they're named after animals like panda and penguin, and they all are related often to certain like specific tactics maybe that people were using to rank, and then Google has made some adjustments to discredit those types of efforts if they didn't feel they were genuine. At the end of the day, it you could obviously sit back and not do any link building whatsoever, and hope that sort of naturally it went your way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But in many cases, businesses that want to grow, they do go out and they try to work with an SEO or marketer, maybe bring one on their team, or potentially hire an agency to do link building for them. And that's when it's really important to make sure that the quality standards that those individuals or that service has align with you and what you're looking for, because like you mentioned, you're going to get those links, and if they are low quality, they may not stand the test of time. You may benefit from them for a few months, but then some algorithm change will essentially disregard them, and all that kind of money and work will have been useless. In worst case scenario, it could actually kind of end up penalizing you, and maybe in a worst case scenario, you could be removed from the search altogether, or just knocked down for a lot of your key terms. So it's really important to be on top of the link building if it's something that you're actively doing, and make understanding the quality of the links that are kind of coming in. There are tools like SEMrush where you can have your backlink score kind of audited through software, and it will give you a proportion, for example, of kind of high, medium, low quality links. And then, as I mentioned, you can send a disavow file if you need to, if you have a lot of low quality links. Those are some of the main ways. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is kind of technical and does require some nuanced expertise. So it's important to kind of work with professionals when you're doing link building.
Good. So we were going to talk about some of the trends. So what are some of the trends you're seeing in link building and just overall linking strategy today?
Yeah, if you were to look at link building, years ago, and SEO in general is an industry that is changing all the time, rapidly. Every 6 to 12 months, they're often, changing priorities and things like that. Metrics go in and out of favor. Back when I first started, there was a metric called page rank that seemed really important at the time. Nowadays, nobody really looks at that one. So it is something that you have to be on top of. More and more, we're just sort of seeing that emphasis on quality. It used to be the way, SEO is often kind of categorized into what we call black hat, gray hat, white hat efforts. Black hat efforts are usually kind of geared towards acquiring more spammy, sort of quick win types of approaches, but they don't often stand the test of time. A lot of the links that you could get from private blog networks or low quality sites in the past, those could work, and those could help a site increase their ranking. Nowadays, Google has just fine-tuned its algorithm to be more and more robust, and they're really understanding what is a good quality link, contextual links in content, what is well-written content, and even just beyond link building in and of itself, at SEO in general, understanding about the user experience of a site and how fast content loads and performance and all of that. So all those factors these days are important. Link building is certainly an important factor in rankings, but more and more new metrics and factors are introduced into Google's algorithm. And last time I checked, there were over 200 or so that play a role. So I would say that link building is certainly prevalent and important in today's day and age, but is not the end all be all. And there are a lot of other things to take into consideration in terms of what's important to have on your site.
Okay, excellent. So are you seeing, AI playing any kind of role in the link building process these days? There's a lot of discussion about how Google's going to treat AI. What are you seeing in the link building side of things?
Yeah, AI certainly has started to become, a known entity in the digital marketing world and in SEO. Hasn't sort of completely taken over, but it's something that we're all paying attention to. A lot of, the earliest kind of steps in AI is around content creation, because that's something, a lot of these AI tools are built off of sort of like these neural language programming. Models. So a lot of it is about, content, vocabulary, words. So that is affecting basic content that's being written on websites. It's starting to replace, human writers, and AI is becoming more and more efficient and effective at writing, long form content. Content is obviously a big part of SEO, and it is a part of link building as well, because links have to reside in content. So whether or not content is going on your blog to potentially be linked to, or whether content is going on someone else's blog, such as in the form of a guest post or otherwise, where you would be getting a link from. AI is now, something you have to kind of pay attention to in that. In and of itself, you don't necessarily see AI building links on behalf of anybody. It's not sort of replacing the human process of link building. And while there's software and automated tools that, sort of do link building, they rarely do so with high quality. So that still has remained, a human being initiative, the link building service. But the content element of that is more and more, you're seeing more and more influence from AI. And you see more articles being sourced from AI, and even writers. Even if you were to work with a writer, you believe maybe as a service provider you're working with human writers, but they are using AI tools as well. So at the end of the day, the sort of the end of the supply chain, AI is there. So, we obviously have to kind of pay attention to that content and kind of protect, quality content on the web and make sure it's useful. But on the other hand, a lot of what AI is producing is getting better and better, and it's rivaling, human writing. So it does seem like it's something that is going to take a foothold going forward.
Okay, good. And then a question we get a lot of times is kind of going back to just linking strategy. A lot of business owners ask us, well, how many links should you have? So how would you answer that?
Yeah, obviously it does vary quite a bit from customer to customer and sort of where they're at in their journey. The earlier you are on, the less links that you need, and then as you get bigger, you naturally have a larger backlink profile, and then typically, you're going to need more links to have impact. It also often depends on the competitiveness of the keyword that you're targeting, in some other things. And that's why, like we mentioned before, kind of working professional can be useful. That said, I mean, often when we work with clients and we do link building on their behalf, we're usually sort of acquiring somewhere between 5 and 20 links per month. So that gives you an idea of sort of, how we as a service do it for clients. But again, there's some variation there from client to client.
Okay, great. So Dave, before we kind of wrap up, any final golden nuggets that you have for anybody listening? Just things that they really ought to lock into when if they're thinking about a link building strategy, they're looking at vendors. What are some of those nuggets you would have for them?
Yeah, I certainly don't want anyone to be stressed out about link building. And, I know it's one of those things that, links honestly can be kind of expensive, and it can be difficult to find a good service provider. So can be, a little bit of a headache to kind of get that ball rolling. It's also something that takes time. A lot of different marketing efforts out there, and some of them can produce results quickly or more quickly than others. Like paid advertising, typically you see results from that earlier, but you have to pay kind of every month to make sure that you're kind of out there with your ads. Whereas SEO, link building, content strategy and creation, they tend to be a bit more long term. We call them like evergreen, and they take 3, 6, 9+ months to mature. So it is something that's You don't necessarily need to invest heavily today, but it's good to get the ball rolling and get started at least a little bit early on. So that way, 12 months from now, you will have started to reap a little bit of effort and see some results from that early work that was done.
Okay, great. So, Dave, if somebody wants to learn more about you, about your services, where can they go to find that information?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm best found via email. Shoot me an email, dave@shortlist.io. That will get you over to me, and I'm always responding right away. So, not too active on social media, to be honest. But yeah, if anyone wants to say hello, that's the way to do it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time today, and it's been great just diving into this topic. It's one of the evergreen things of search engine optimization is links are critical. That hasn't changed no matter what. And so, some great insights from you. Any last thoughts that you want to share today?
No, I think I think there's some great questions that help kind of underline a lot of the basic misconceptions and fundamentals of link building. So thanks for having me on the show, Carl.
Absolutely. Again, this is Dave Schneider, and it's been great talking with him today, and looking forward to seeing you on our next episode.